welcome to my YouTube channel, Unpack Cultage, where we unpack and process memories, experiences from our time with spiritually very unhealthy, toxic people, be it a church, be it a group, be it a fellowship, or in my case, a full-grown cult. Today we get to speak about the logical fallacy of the straw man. Last week I started the series off with ad hominem, so check that out if you missed it to get the full picture. The straw man has distorted my life in ways that I couldn't have seen coming, but that's why it's good to understand these very common ways that people will trap us in our own thinking, and hopefully that will empower us to say, stop, no, thank you, not with me, I'm out of here. What is the straw man? Straw man, very simple example would be that the one person says, let's say man says to woman, this dish that you made, I don't like it. And the woman hears and repeats back, so you can just cook for yourself because I never make anything you like, right? So he criticized, and this is completely like a stupid example, but he criticized and she's just like, oh, I can never do anything right for you. That is unhelpful, right? That is an unhelpful way to debate. That is an unhealthy way to hear criticism. And that is an unhealthy way to substantively disagree with the person, because you're not actually going to the substance. It is being embellished, it's being exploded, it's being blown up to a point where we're not actually talking about the thing anymore. The thing has become a new thing, something made up by the person who's unhappy to have to deal with the criticism or have to deal with the argument that is brought. And it's called the straw man because it is, in a way, an easily refutable mechanism. Because this person could easily say, hey, can you try one more time to repeat what I actually said and then respond? So then the cook or the chef would have to say, oh, you said you don't like this meal versus you never like any of my meals, right? So in this way, we probably all have experienced the straw man before. And it comes at no surprise that the straw man logical fallacy appears often and maybe is a fundamental dynamic in a setting where spiritual abuse is ripe. And of course I have an example because I'm here to speak not just in theory, but I share my experiences. And this is probably one of the ones, maybe not the worst one, but certainly the one that is the worst in the sense that it affected the most people. And it's one of those things that I can never ever change. I can never take it back. So this is 2009. My sister is supposed to get married and I'm supposed to actually sing in the wedding. I was looking forward to this, but she's of course not a cult member and wants to get married at a Baptist church, the church where we grew up in. And my cult leaders call me a week before the wedding, and I remember standing in my college hallway in front of the theology offices because I wanted to talk to a professor. And I answered this phone call, and life wasn't the same after because I was told I cannot attend this wedding. Why not? Well, the first argument that was brought to me was that there was this conference that the cult leaders put on, and it was kind of a thing, another way to get us to pay money and sit at his lips and let him indoctrinate us. So that was the first reason. It wasn't a very strong reason, so that moment I knew I'm not going to go to that wedding because that's always how this goes. But I was just pushing back a little bit. Couple days later, because you have to imagine when the news spread through my family that I wasn't going to the wedding, I got phone call after another, and I had to listen to my family members tell me how messed up my life has become and that's not God leading me there and whatnot. And I had no argument, but I have to be obedient. I didn't say that, but I had to come up with something. So at some point I kind of complained to the co-leader and said, I just really want to go to that wedding. I don't see at all how this is serving the Lord. And here enters the straw man. He said, so she wants to get married in a Baptist church. Why didn't she ask us to marry her? What if you go to that wedding and the Lord decides to finally pour out his judgment on these lukewarm Baptists and throw a meteor on that church that day? Then what? That kind of shut me up. And I'm surprised at that version of myself 16 years ago. But that was where I was at. That's how much I was entrapped in trusting them and trusting God that He would lead me well through these people. So I guess I didn't go to that wedding, and the great blessing that I was supposed to get, I'm still waiting for it. I have a really bad story now that I can tell on my channel, or it's kind of a go-to example to explain to people kind of where to draw a line, or just how bad, I guess, I was trapped and how evil the people were that entrapped me in the name of God, hence spiritual abuse. But you see from the outside, or from like a meta level, it's so clear that my argument was I should go to that wedding. That's my sister. Yeah, we don't theologically agree anymore, and she's lukewarm, and I am in this front runner group that the Lord prefers, but I should still go to that wedding. And then the argument was so extreme, so distorting the authority in my life, God, that I couldn't see left from right anymore. That feeling that is attached to that, I can only describe it as that's hell on earth. That feeling when you don't know left from right anymore. So that is easily dismantled from the outside. From the inside, however, I wasn't able to say, hey, the way you talk about God, that's messed up. You really shouldn't have children. Or are you okay? Like, what else do you believe in? Right? So I wasn't able to do any of that. All I was able to do was be a recipient of my cult leader's authority and take his argument verbatim at his word and say, I guess I folded. I folded because I had learned if I push back anymore, I will only regret it. And now I'm saying I should have 100% ignored what he said and gone anyway. And if that had led to kicking me out, they would have done me a favor earlier. But I guess I was not ready for that. So the lesson here about the straw man is you have to have from the inside a level of realism, skepticism, and consider that not everybody has your best interest at heart. The cult leaders, they just didn't want to hear us push back. They were annoyed of that at that point. They were just like, can't you just do what you're told? And if we weren't listening, I don't know if they actually believed what they said or if that was just to shut us up. It sure worked. But it is important to remain skeptical. So as you might realize that you were in a bad group, you did experience spiritual abuse, and you are still looking for a new group, I would say keep this on your radar. Not everybody has literally your best interest at heart. Oftentimes people will be just kind of done with people not recognizing that they're special and that they should be listened to. So they will come up with ways to shut people up, because that is essentially what the strawman argument does. It's incredibly frustrating to earnestly debate or argue with a person who doesn't actually respond to what you said, but just a blown up version of it, or calls upon a blown up argument and put that into the conversation. It shuts you up. Unless you're really, like I said, earnest about it, then you have to go through the arduous process of saying, okay, what you just said, I don't agree with, and I don't think that I said that, or I don't think this is applicable to this situation. Honestly, I have, unless we're talking about good, close friends, I have very, very little hope that people in spiritual settings where their position is safe, that there is anyone really there who is willing to be humble and to be like, oh wow, yeah, I just did that. Whew, that wasn't helpful. Sorry. Okay, so let me say what I really want to say. So when we put on a conference and we're really passionate about the ways that we teach you guys, and we want you to invite other people. You see, that's a great opportunity for us to grow our group, which is important to us. And then you say you'd rather go to your sister's wedding. Not only we're going to miss out on the money that you ought to be paying. It also always leaves the door open to you going somewhere else and realizing how batshit crazy we are. That's what he should have said. But that would have been the truth. And that's just not what toxic people deal with. They deal with distortions, manipulations, coercions, basically all the ways that they can get you to accept so that you are obedient and they have control over you. We were eventually kicked out because we pushed back more and more, especially after they married my husband and me. We pushed back substantively and called them bad shepherds, and that was basically the straw that broke the camel's back, which I'm now very proud of my husband for, that he was so daring to be that voice. But there's a time, right? So if you know someone who's in a cult who might be trapped by bad people with horrible theology and fear and coercion as tactics, and you see it so clearly, you see the straw man so clearly from the outside, my best advice to you is stick around. The time will come that the last straw will be placed on that camel's back, and either the person will break and say, I can't anymore, or the leadership will have had their extent of what they can handle with that person, or maybe that person has become useless to them, or they think that person will ultimately become more loyal if they kick them out, and then they come crawling back, begging to be left back into the group, be led back into the group. So these could all be dynamics that could happen. So that's why I'm saying stick around. There will be movement. That is my hope. So what have you experienced? In what ways has the straw man shown up in your life, in your experience in spiritual abuse? In what ways have you been silenced, scared to death and beyond, right? Because in spiritual abuse, we don't deal with just the life here. We're always dealing with the afterlife and where people are going eternally in the afterlife. So where has the straw man shown up in your life? And maybe with the therapist, or with a good friend, or with just a notebook, or by taking a walk and just, thinking your thoughts. Take it apart, unpack that memory, unpack that cultage, that baggage, that fear that you might still be carrying around, that they were maybe right, and that you shouldn't have left, or you should ask, you should go back. I want to very much encourage you to say that these groups, they are so deceptive. They have so many layers of strategies to confuse their people that if you made it out, that's amazing. Stay out. And to be honest with you, it's almost a good time to stay out of churches. I'm saying that from experience, because when you go right into the next thing, it's very likely that you will still be attracted to a very similar form. As I finished the last video, in a different packaging, but the control, the coercion will be there as well. Maybe not right away, and you'll start to learn to trust those people and get behind their passion and their purpose, and then suddenly the same bad stuff happens in a different packaging, and you haven't really added any tools to your repertoire to dismantle coercion. So I want to encourage you, trust your thoughts, trust your instinct of, I feel like someone's trying to pull my strings here. This is not actually about me making a good decision. This is about me falling in line. And I can do better in life. I don't deserve this. And I think if God wants to lead me, He can do that without fear and without pulling my arm behind my back, twisting my arm. God can do that without twisting my arm. Next time we will talk about appeal to authority, another logical fallacy. Until then, keep on unpacking the cultage.